Growth, Consultech, Synergizing, Transformation.
In this series of interviews with personalities who are unique, you have contributed uniquely, differentiated, brought different thought processes, something that we should aspire to learn from their experiences and derive from the kind of lookout that they have about the life in a different way. So we have Oniell Shah today with us. Great to have you,
Okay.
Oniell.
So too, because sport, I consider even today at my workplace, I consider it's a game of sports that we have a challenge at our hand, and it's a sport. Like in sports, we always have an opponent. Here also we have an opponent. One opponent is the customer, and the other opponent is a competitor, and the third is internal processes and organization. To see how we implement quality processes. Okay, so this industrial experiences always help you to understand and to see the relation between academia and the industry, so you can always correlate.
I know engineering background and have done mechanical engineering and done hence studied in the US, also spent good amount of time in the US with larger organizations, as well as now serving one of the largest uh, tier one auto kind of suppliers. So huge amount of experience, right, Onil?
But academia and the industry, there's a small lag in between what they're teaching and what is expected from the students. There's a small lag in between. So tier ones are the ones where the knowledge, the advancement, the R&D takes place. And OEMs, they have the entrepreneurial mindset, not like just the IT industry, but even in the automotive industry also they have the entrepreneurial mindset. They're willing to take the risks. There are enough suppliers who are willing to support them.
Wonderful. Those aspects of being in the team and also not to give up and always looking at, nothing is impossible. I think a great attitude. Do you think that, games like badminton that I think you used to cherish in the younger days, that has given some kind of spirit where, sportsman spirit, never give up, that kind of attitude that is built into you?
I think so too. Going forward, I think everybody needs to learn a multidisciplinary approach in their learning. It's not necessarily mechanical, but you need to know a little bit about electrical, hardware, software also. Not and sustainability is being driven very rapidly by Europe. That will also come into existence. So I think coexisting and understanding these along with the regulations is very, very important to keep moving ahead and leading and finding ways where we can take one step forward and not backward to see where we can approach and what we can do. And the others will just follow anyways, because you have to keep in mind whatever you're trying to do is the right thing for the organization. And you're never going to hurt in any way whatsoever the organization. But I would be focusing more on giving back wherever I can. Okay, because you can add value.
Growth, Consultech, Synergizing, Transformation.
Yeah, hi, great to be connected again. This is Shirish Kulkarni, founder and MD of STROTA Consultech, and in this series of interviews with personalities who are unique, you have contributed uniquely, differentiated, brought different thought processes, something that we should aspire to learn from their experiences and derive from the kind of lookout that they have about the life in a different way. So we have Oniell Shah today with us. Great to have you,
Okay.
Oniell. Good. So, we're talking to people who have definitely, ventured out in the world. You've seen the whole world. So, Onil, maybe just to break the ice and start going, how do you feel, going to the places and, connecting with people, connecting with places is critical, right? I mean, that has been something that you have been very, very apt at.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's right. Yes. Okay. So basically, I feel that uh, in this world, basically, technology is one aspect, but people are the most important part of this path, because wherever you go, you have to work with people, through people, by the way, and connecting with them, knowing them, understanding them is very, very important, because they have their own goals and their agendas. They represent a different function. So you need to understand them, and you always have to give and take a little bit, so that there's always a win-win situation. And so that's why being good in itself is a great talent, and it's very, very important to go along with while working in any organization, I think.
So I think that really sums it up pretty nicely. That how critical interactions with human beings, though it could be in our real life with relatives, friends, in the network that you are in, as well as professionally, it is very very critical to associate with various functions. That's
Correct.
uh,
I remember Dale Carnegie's principle saying that technical knowledge is 15% of what you do, 85% is how you interact with people, what your attitude is, and how you work through people, with people, and by the people. So that is 85% of the work. So that's very, very important that what attitude we carry and how we work in the environment.
Superb. And just to talk more about Onill, has been in from engineering background and has done mechanical engineering and then hence studied in the US. Also spent good amount of time in the US with larger organizations as well as now serving one of the largest uh, tier 1 auto kind of suppliers. So huge amount of experience, right, Onill? Do you still go back to your engineering days? Where you have studied in College of Engineering, Pune.
Yes, even today, actually, I am associated with an organization where the technical skills and my engineering skills are still useful, still important because they deal with materials, I deal with mechanisms, I deal with dimensions and tolerances, and I deal with materials which are like plastics, metal, sheet metal, glass, EPDM, and steel, aluminum, motors, wiring harness. These are all the materials that I will deal with on a day-to-day basis. And I think it's important to have this core and technical knowledge. With being mechanical, it's very important. I may not need to know everything, but at least I need to know where I should look for it if I don't know something, because there in this world there'll be always something that you do not know, and at least you need to know where you can get the information or who you can get it from, and at least go in that direction, be open minded to search where we can get the information, because knowledge is vast and you may not need to know everything at that particular point.
Wonderful. And taking back the kind of experiences that one learns in engineering college. Also, there is a huge amount of part of us which actually spend time also in the ways that we explore our personalities. So, do you find going back to that smaller and younger O'Neill, there are some tenets that you felt where that you thought that you would be what you are right now. There's some kind of elements that you had in yourself right in that age.
I think so too, because when we are young, the energy, the drive, the excitement, the open mindedness is very, very important, because it's not just at the young age, it's necessary at the any age in life, anywhere you go, it's very, very important, because how you approach things is most important. What your attitude is towards approach is the most important thing, because see, there is nothing which is impossible. Today maybe it's impossible to go to the sun, but tomorrow it may not be, because I'm sure we'll find a solution for that also. So I don't think there is anything which is impossible. So you always have to keep an open mind and stretch your imagination, stretch yourself a little bit, think outside the box, and don't take no as an answer. And you have to go with a lot of passion and energy, which is very, very important. And of course, it's not an individual effort, and nowhere in the world it's an individual effort. It's always a teamwork. You have to take the team along with you. You have to appreciate the people who are supporting you while you're going up, while you're going down, wherever you are in organization. So you always have to take the support, give support, and take support, because that's where the teamwork counts, because no person can do it single-handedly anything in this world today.
Wonderful. Those aspects of being in the team and also not to give up and always looking at, nothing is impossible. I think a great attitude. Do you think that, games like badminton that I think you used to cherish in the younger days, that has given some kind of spirit where, sportsman spirit, never give up, that kind of attitude that is built into you?
I think so too, because I consider, even today at my workplace, I consider it's a game of sports, that we have a challenge at our hand, and it's a sport. Like in sports, we always have an opponent, Here also we have an opponent. One opponent is a customer, and the other opponent is a competitor. And the third is internal processes and organization. There are three different components which we have to overcome their thought process, their mindset. And it's always a service attitude that we have to keep towards all three. To the customer, we are always serving. Customer is always right. Of course, even if he's wrong, sometimes we have to just nod and accept it. He or she will definitely realize one day that they are not necessarily right all the time. But here we're not in a debate to argue who is right or wrong, but it's just that, yes, we know where we are, we stand what we know, we are the best, but of course, you are the best in your field. And so that is a customer. Competitor is always going to try to snatch something from you, but you have to be one step ahead of him with the help of your own service, your own attitude, your own mindset. And of course, internal organizations, they will always change, but we have to keep moving ahead and leading and finding ways where we can take one step forward and not backward to see where we can approach and what we can do. And the others will just follow anyways, because you have to keep in mind whatever you're trying to do is the right thing for the organization. And you're never going to hurt in any way whatsoever the organization, but I'm only trying to progress in the right direction,
How wonderful. I think it's a great concept to see, simile between sports where you have opponent, somebody, who in maybe in business you have somebody who is a competitor or a customer. I think it's a great way to look at it and keep yourself as skills always honed and raring with what best you have to be delivered. Now,
Right.
going back again, a very important part of your persona that I have found is the ability to connect with people, the networking. So, in this world, as you've roamed around the world and seen so many personalities, you have a very good knack of keeping track of, who's doing what. There may be, important dates, days, and reminding them and, having that call where you start very softly with people. So, where does that come from? I think it's extremely essential skill, right?
See, I feel that from the beginning that people are very, very important aspect, and just a few things about people are very important. The name. See, I read the book, the Dale Carnegie book. Okay, How to Win Friends and Influence People, and I definitely feel that is a very, very important aspect. I keep the principles in my mind, and that the other book is the How to the Stephen Covey, the Seven Principles also. Okay, the Seven Habits of Highly Effective People. Those are a couple of books which I always feel are very, very important. Of course, you're not manipulating people, but you're connecting with them at their level, because everyone has their own strengths. Everyone likes a name, everyone likes a birth rate, and everyone likes to be connected, to be remembered, or to connect with them. So once in a while, it's always good to connect, to know the people. And if you do this, this really helps them. And it doesn't take too much to know the name and the birth rate. And this way, whenever you connect, you can always be in a serving attitude, saying that, hey, how can we connect? How can I help? Because helping, what we can only do is service people. That's the only forte that we have in our hand is how do we approach them? How do we serve them? If in need, if we are able to serve them and we connect with them, that's the most important aspect that we can give to people around us.
Wonderful. I think this approach of always trying to give in any kind of relationship. I think that's the key to success for any kind of relationship, especially when you talk about connecting with people for the first time, right? I mean, if you get that kind of vibe that this individual is definitely going extra mile to be able to associate, and you use the word service, right? I mean, this is a very humble way of putting that. Every relation starts with something where we give. It's
Yeah,
a gesture of giving, right?
correct.
So
Absolutely.
yeah, and you've been connected with various ecosystems. It could be, going back to College of Engineering alumni. You find yourself into IIM Bangalore's alumni groups. Also, you would be having your own MS Masters group in the US. So it's extremely critical, where you position yourself as well, as a friend, as a mentor. So, do you find, whenever we talk about, say, coming back from US, is definitely a tough decision. We will come to that, whether we want to call it tough or something that, is part of your persona to take challenges and explore the world. Maybe you can elaborate a little bit where that was the time that that you decided that okay, I'll come back.
See, we were after engineering, I was in the US for almost 15 years, and we always had the desire to come back to India, and it's just a trigger point because there in the back of the mind there's always a decision, but it's always again X plus one syndrome where you along with the family decide when you what is the right time, and you do a few certain things, you achieve a certain milestones in your life, and then after that certain point, then you have to take a decision as to when is the right time. And because fortunately India was growing at that time, there were a lot of opportunities coming up, and US also we felt that okay, there's enough that we can learn, enough, there was a substantial amount of money that we could make, that was enough, the kids were still young, and they had the power to make a decision but not enough power, they were still young, they could feel acceptable here also. So we did a Reiki in 1990 in 2005 December, we did a Reiki to understand what the situation is, where they are, and then after that we decided that okay, there's an opportunity for in terms of work wise, there's a possibility things are opening up. So if we move now, this will be the best chance. So that because in the future, if you delay this, it'll be very very difficult. The kids grow up, then it becomes challenging. So we chose the right time. My wife and I, both of us, we decided it's the right time. We took the plunge. We said, let's give it a couple of years and let's see how things worked out. And fortunately, it worked out good. Of course, the kids had a little challenge in the first couple of years, but they were flexible enough to adjust, to mold themselves, and then things went on.
I think moving forward, um, you know, uh, now the transition from the US is something that we have been speaking about, and uh, so now India has also progressed pretty well in last maybe 15, 20 years. So do you find something that you miss out, or you something that you find that okay, fine, it is in India also. So do you find that kind of mind level comparison sometimes?
See, yes, there is, of course, there is always a coin has two sides. So it's like that also. In the US, there are certain things which are good, certain things where they're lacking. Here, there are certain things which are good, certain things which are lacking. So, for example, in the US, people are very fixed with their goals, roles, and responsibilities. They know exactly what they want, and they are very, very fixed to their roles. Okay. And the flexibility is a little limited sometimes. But back here in India, we are very, very flexible and able to do everything. But that sometimes it's an advantage, but sometimes it's a disadvantage also, because then people take you for granted also that you're able to do everything. So do this also, do that also. And so sometimes your role is not defined there. So it's like, so it becomes a little dichotomical situation where sometimes it could work either ways with you or against you. So that's why it's a little difficult, and taking people for granted sometimes happens in India, but not over there. But then we have a flexibility here that it's not like a hire and fire situation. Whereas in the US, it's a hire and fire, because if you don't fit that role and you're not flexible enough, then you're gone. Then because that what you're required and what to do, if you're not flexible enough, then it goes away with that. So that is why it's a little difficult to just to compare. But these are two sides of the coin that we have to keep in mind. And fortunately enough, I'm able to judge and adjust and understand both these roles. And it sometimes it has worked in my favors, but sometimes it works against you also.
I think it's kudos to you and your family, especially the spouse and the kids, because it's at that point in time a decision where you never know what is the way that it is going to sway, and you have to actually plunge, as you rightly use the word, plunge into it. And yeah, it's good that good things have happened, and you see yourself also technologically getting advanced. And we find that, also in India, yeah. So, talking, aspects of where the technology is heading, let's say, into car development or auto development, tier one, tier two, digital actually getting a huge way into the space where things are getting connected. visible uh, as far as the designs are concerned. So do you find that, the technology has moved to an extent where we find it absolutely up to the par or better than the par than in the US and other countries?
I feel so. The OEMs in India are very demanding. They are tech savvy because they have also got a lot of education. Internet is free. They are available and they are aware of this, and they are also very demanding. They feel that the India is at the cusp of technology in terms of taking the lead, and they are on they have the entrepreneurial mindset, not like just the IT industry, but even in the automotive industry also they have the entrepreneurial mindset. They're willing to take the risks. There are some enough suppliers who are willing to support them. So that's why I feel technology is taking a big leap in India also, and the government also is making these things available and increasing the awareness with some incentives like production linked incentive schemes, PLI schemes, which the government is giving, where you try to localize these. It helps them. So that's why I feel that these things are very, very important. And I think India is, I would not say 100% there, but almost there in terms of the technology and the expectations. The rest of the country has to catch up to them because not everybody is exposed. But slowly, I think, give yourself in the next 3 to 5 years, I think we will be able to reach and be very, very strong competition to China or to the West or to even to the European region. We will be just pretty much along with them, in some aspects.
Super, super. I think talking about this next gen or some of the aspects which are existing, like Industry 4.0 or IIoT as a concept, so, and how they are actually bringing digital revolution in the way that the whole manufacturing process works. The predictability has increased. You'll see a lot of elements of digital intervention in the form of certain of process parameters are readily available to be acquired and to be able to get controlled. So, do you see that kind of things changing the way that the work happens and the customer gets predictability out of the processes?
Yes, I think so too, because customer is sometimes predictable, but sometimes you have to lead the customer also, because as a tier one, sometimes you can lead them in the direction that you want to go also, because customers sometimes are not necessarily aware of everything. They want to know more, they're eager to know more, so you have to guide them in the direction that you think is right and expose them to different things, give them the pros and cons. So transparency in this case is very, very important also, because transparency means that you're telling the customer, open your cards, because that's the way to lead, and that's the way, because in technology there's nothing to hide. Today he will know from you, or he will know from somebody else. So it's better that you approach the customer first, give them the information, and keep your IP with you. But there are certain aspects that IP, but today IP is basically intellectual property, but that will always remain with you. But we can always give him things which he needs to know, not necessarily expose everything to the customer. So this level of transparency, saying that, you know what, I can only give you 50%, the rest 50% is intellectual property for us. He will appreciate it, and he will acknowledge the fact also that it's okay for you to have your own IP, because we have to be successful as a supplier or a tier one, and they have to be successful also. So we are going halfway down the road, they have to walk halfway, and together we can make it happen. So that's approach to the OEMs is very important, and I think is very necessary also in the coming days.
So I think the way that typically it gets configured as the OEM being a kind of partner and closely associated with something called as tier one. Now there is a new term coming where it is called as tier point 5. So it's further close. It's like
Mhm.
you have vendor parks which are actually very close or closely associated with OEM. So do you find that kind of way in which tier one or the suppliers or the vendors becoming more technology savvy than even the OEMs, and there is a give and take where either part teaches or leads the way in technology?
No, tier ones are the ones where the knowledge, the advancement, the R&D takes place. OEMs do the R&D only at the highest level of the vehicle level, but much of R&D is done at the tier 1 or tier point 5, as you said rightly, at that level, because they are smaller, they're nimble, they're flexible, they're fast, and they have global reach also, because they're not just in one region, they're in global regions. So it helps them to have this knowledge sourced from all their headquarters, wherever it is, and globally also. So that is why I think the tier ones are a little bit step ahead in technology wise, where OEMs are not lagging behind, but they're eager to know, but they are more R&D oriented from their own vehicle level perspective, and we are more from the system or their own commodity level perspective.
Wonderful. Typically you will see that the relationship, we call it as a relationship where both of them are definitely eager to help each other. But there tends to be also a handshake point where price comes into picture, and that becomes a little bit of a kind of a sore point for that relationship, where costs have to be, kept down. Each rupee or dollar or cent going into the vehicle as a cost matters a lot. So has that been there, or you feel that technology has been taking over? Also, the value add, where you go beyond what is expected out of the relationship, is also getting delivered.
Right. Pricing is very, very important aspect. It's basically pricing from the product perspective as well as internal processes perspective. So it depends upon who is controlling what and where your support is coming from. Because if there's a region is huge, then within the company and in their own region, they have to ensure that they're getting the support to meet the customer requirements. And the customer requirements have to be understood and percolated, and it has to be transferred or cascade it to the whole organization. And together we have to ensure that we meet the customer requirement. So sometimes there is always a resistance. You might expect that internally also to give what the customer expectations are. So there's always a give and take, always a push and pull. So this is where the internal battle and processes have to come in place, and the customer battle with the customer is always there. So that's why engineering is called a frugal engineering, where we try to reduce the cost as much as possible, but finally the quality of the product is most important, because if you give poor quality, then you'll never be able to survive. It's like the golden egg. If you kill the golden egg or the golden hen, then it's no point that you don't have the golden egg and you don't have anything either. So the product is most important. The quality of the product should never suffer, and that should remain the focus of the company, to make sure that we get the highest quality product to the customer, irrespective of whatever the cost is.
Right, right. So I think it's a great triangle that you have between quality, the other parameters of cost and schedule, where this balance has to be arrived at. And we always talk about certain things that are expected out of relationship, where value add, in typical project management term, it is called as gold plating. So giving something which is required to be a silver plated thing, but you actually tend to give more. And in this relationship, I believe that is critical, where you go beyond the expectations of the OEM, what they are expecting out of you, to give more. And as you rightly said, if technologically you know better about the subsystem in the form of technology, the kind of options, variants, it could be the way materials are getting used, the processes. I believe that is the way that OEMs would definitely welcome this gesture.
Absolutely, absolutely. Because if you don't do it, then the competitor will do it. So it's better to stay ahead of the competition, get ahead of the in terms of technology wise. Be aware of it. Need not necessarily know that you have to know everything, but at least expose yourself to it and expose this to the customer also, and let the customer decide whether this is important, if the timing is right, if the commercial aspects are right or not. Let the customer decide, and then at least customer is aware that this supplier is aware, has the knowledge. Yes, may not be 100%, even if it's 10%, it's better than 0%. And then we can expose it and elaborate it when the timing is right.
Absolutely. Now, as the product advances, and there are a lot of controls, that is a lot of electronics controls, there are a lot of feel-good factors within the vehicle that you provide to the end customers. and the whole thing starts becoming extremely complicated depending upon each other. So do you see that the quality processes, maturity matrices, the way that you actually look at the overall integration part of these subsystems into the larger systems, the whole quality requirement goes higher and higher? Is that what is happening?
Absolutely, absolutely. The quality as the technology changes, the quality requirements change also, and the expectations improve, and the processes are improving also. So I see that the suppliers are willing, they're willing to go beyond, above and beyond. And I think today in India, we are advancing extremely fast, and with open-mindedness, the energy of the youth is taking a good shape, and they're all eager, hungry to grow, and they have a lot of energy, enthusiasm, aspirations to absorb everything that comes their way, and they are eager to move forward. I consider everybody, and I tell everybody that, hey, you have to consider yourself at Sachin Tendulkar, Virat Kohli, or MS Dhoni. You cannot fail. Even if you fail in the first year, it's still okay, because second, third, fourth year, you'll always improve. You have lessons learned, and you have to capitalize on those lessons learned and keep growing. Whatever happens, you need not worry about it, because these are all lessons learned. So I keep telling them, and they're really motivated and excited to leave the past and move on to bigger and better future and pastures.
Super. And talking further about the way that we are seeing the human beings, the raw material that is coming from psychologists to really, make sure that they have the future with this kind of tier one and overall the auto industry. I believe that you have your heart going where you have that, giving back attitude also to alumni colleges and, do you find that, there is a lot that this youth has to learn, and you're eager to also conduct lectures, going back, teach them hands-on, take them to have visit to your organization and things like that?
I think so, because fortunately, unfortunately, our academia in some areas have lagged a little bit behind. It is the people who have the eagerness to grow, but academia and the industry, there's a small lag in between what they're teaching and what is expected from the students. There's a small lag in between. So I think there is uh, between at least 1 or 2 years of gap in between, where they need to learn a little bit of soft skills, what is expected from the industry, objective oriented expectations, and those are certain things that are important to be taught in the academia, which will help them or help the students when they get out to be in the industry, not within 2 years, maybe in the first year itself. So there's a small gap which I think is necessary to be filled, to be made employable, so that they can start adding value the day one and not 1 or 2 years later. So this, sometimes some industries have the patience to train them, to guide them, to help them learn and mature, but some of them may not have it. So that is why it is sometimes important that the students themselves learn, or guidance is important for those students who are coming out of the academy.
So going back, taking example of your engineering studies that you have done, the education that you've done, say in India, the masters that you've done in the US, then I am Bangalore. That we remember the days that that was a thrill of getting all this business knowledge at the right point in time. So do you kind of remember certain best examples or something that you definitely would not miss out of any of the learnings that you have?
Otherwise, you always remember the professors, the way they were taught, they taught you, the experiences that you had outside. For example, while I was doing my engineering in my master's, we had a chance to go and meet the NASA in Houston, to meet them, to see the project over there. So that was very interesting. The other interesting aspect was we had a 1 year quality consortia where I was working with National Instruments for a year to see how we implement quality processes. Okay, so this industrial experiences always help you to understand and to see the relation between academia and the industry, so you can always correlate. So these are a few things that you always come to mind, because theory is important, but theory doesn't take you that far. And during our times, we had a lot more theory than practical. So unfortunately, if the theory was made more practical, it would have been much relevant and much more important. So that's where I think hands-on training is very important, whether it's mechanical, electrical, or any other field. You learn faster when you have hands-on, when your hands are dirty, when you have something to hold on to, then it's much more easier. And that's the Western way of teaching, is to do more hands-on training, more practical oriented and not theory.
Superb. So I think the gesture is definitely where anything which is realistic learning, experiential learning, takes definitely more priority. And there are organizations where we are inviting folks to join, to meet, to visit those places where also in addition to the theory, the way that the principles get really applied in the engineering concept or in the business context. Is clearly articulated, and that experience goes, which is very critical. I think that's what Oniell is saying. Taking it forward, I believe definitely this is going to be a digital era where you will find everything connected. Industrial equipments are connected. You have yourself with a mobile phone which has got so many sensors already making you technology savvy. So, where do you see this whole digital era taking us? We can talk only maybe in the auto context, maybe electric vehicle, autonomous vehicle. Do you see that those technologies are hitting us in a normal life as well? Engineering wise, do you see there are challenges coming towards us?
See, I think going forward, I think everybody needs to learn a multidisciplinary approach in their learning. It's not necessarily mechanical, but you need to know a little bit about electrical, hardware, software also. Not everything, but at least enough to be or valuable to the end customer, because it is going to keep increasing and keep growing. The other aspect I feel is that some technologies will go away if the customers are not demanding or the environmental conditions are going to change. For example, Europe is much further ahead in terms of environmental conditions. So sustainability is going to come into the very important factor. So diesel engines are slowly fading away. They're going to be dinosaurs in the future, but that know-how technology is important if they do not change. So I think the petrol engines, they will remain, and then we'll also have the battery operated. But I also feel that together they will also exist. Like we have the Maruti Suzuki, they have the hybrid vehicles, and like Toyota also. I think that will be the sustainable long-term goal, is to remain hybrid in terms of petrol or diesel along with battery, and together they have to coexist. I think that's the best way that will coexist together, and not just battery alone, because in battery we are moving the pollution further upstream, because once all the batteries are done, what do you do with them? There's still nobody has thought about it. And what do you do? We recycling. And with this recycling, again, you're going to create a lot of pollution. So it's either upstream or downstream. So that's why I think everything has to be thought through. And sustainability is being driven very rapidly by Europe. That will also come into existence. So I think coexisting and understanding these along with the regulations is very, very important. But I think this coexistence will definitely be the future, in my opinion.
Wonderful. I think a couple of takeaways from there. Hybrid is definitely a direction where Toyota is already existing in the form of Toyota Hyrider, right? And Maruti is
Right.
selling it as
Correct.
Grand as a model. That's they are sitting on the corner. Hybrid could be one of the directions, and the coexistence is a key to success. There are three R's, typically talked about for sustainability: reduce, reuse, and recycle. I believe that becomes a key to success. And a
Correct.
very important point you outlined is about being multidisciplinary, and that is very key for academia,
Correct.
where all these engineering kind of verticals are there for sake of classification, maybe for ease of learning, for adjacencies, but everything is collapsing together, right? All these technologies are existing together, and if you take any kind of a conveyor belt where robots are existing, where everything is optical is coming into picture, you have electromechanical aspects coming into picture. You take electric vehicle, you have battery where chemical reactions is making some energy out, and then you have a motor which is converting that energy into mechanical, and then mechanically it is getting driven. So I think engineering is merging together, and I think another message that you gave is for definitely the ones who are learning or intending to join any kind of a technology company, multidisciplinary is the key to success. Now, I think coming to almost a closure side, Onil, is there something that you feel that you would be targeting in the you've done lot of things, connected with so many people, done great things to be able to be back, very well known professionally, being a great father, also great friend of many people, a great advisor, great person to help. Do you think that there is something that you would be doing moving forward, and that's the focus for you?
Yeah, see, moving forward, what I think is I would be focusing more on giving back wherever I can. Okay, because you can add value only to people who need your help. Okay, so be approachable, be a mentor, and and of course open-minded to learn different things, try different domains now, and of course try different segments of the industry, academia, and see how we can contribute more, giving back to the society or what we have learned, and how we can proceed further on a bigger scale. So this is where I'm looking forward to in the next few years, and let's see how we can, or how I will try to contribute back to the automotive industry in India to shape things in a different way, and to take this further in the next century. Then so that's what my goal is going to be, and let's see how we can achieve that.
Wonderful, Anil, to interact with you. An innovative mind was always, chosen the path which had definite challenges to, venture out into newer areas, laid down as a role model for various aspects. I believe that's really great and inspiring to talk to you.
Thank you, Shirish. It's good talking to you also, and good that we got a chance to meet after some time. Thank you again.
Absolutely. And, we wish you, getting a huge amount of success, whatever that you derive and desire out of your professional life as well as personal life. We wish that you are part of various advisory boards on academia as well as, industries and OEMs and tier ones, where your knowledge is extremely respected. Your give back gesture is, awesome, and your alumni is also eager to seek your blessings.
Thank you again.
Wonderful. So we will close here. Thanks, Monil. It was great talking to you. We will stop here. Thanks.
Okay.
Truth Consultech, synergizing transformation.